Skip to here if you want to get to the basic movement guide, and skip to here if you want to get to the slide tech. Before I start this, I want to say that I am not claiming that any of this makes you a better Battlefield 1 player. This is simply an explanation of the mechanics of Battlefield 1's movement system, and how I use it to play the way that I play. If you are a milsim purist who hates on anything sweaty in Battlefield 1, this is not the video for you. I've given each category its own chapter, but this video is separated into 3 sections. The first being the basics for moving more efficiently, the second being the slide tech and its variations, and 3 being niche techs and mechanics for anybody who's interested. With that being said, enjoy the tutorial. Alright, the first thing I'm going to cover is going to be window strafe jumping. This is your bread and butter for pushing people, and it's done by jumping at an angle and holding WD or WA. And this allows you to push people more effectively because when you vault, you are animation locked, and your angle at which you can turn is capped to about 130. But with this jump, you can pretty directly get yourself into a 50-50. Alright, next thing I'm going to cover is going to be jumping and sliding down hills. You really just want to be doing this, to rotate around the map. You get a little bit, it just makes you harder to track. It's essentially jumping, holding your slide, jumping, holding your slide. You could chain it with a jump, but this is going to be, once again, your bread and butter for navigating around maps, pushing people. Alright, the next thing I'm going to cover is going to be sliding and slide peeking. A lot of 150s would probably advise against this, but it's very simply making your hitbox smaller while peeking out of cover, which is good no matter what. You should not try to chain this because you're going to fatigue, but peeking someone like this, let's say someone's pushing up, sliding into that, or if someone's to the left here, it's just such a solid technique. I have so many clips dogging kids because they don't expect a BF1 player to come sliding out of cover. Alright, next I'm going to talk about pushing people from above. You never want to jump when pushing someone from above, because in this game you can't shoot after jumping. You want to always make sure you either run off or slide off. Alright, the next thing I'm going to talk about is going to be a jump into a hold to prone. Alright, to do this you're going to need crouch toggle / prone hold. I have mine bound to U and reassigned to my mouse button, but as long as you have this bound to anything, it'll work. This essentially allows you to slide into a peak, but just to clarify, this is client side. The enemy will not see you prone midair, but they will see you sliding on the ground in prone, and it should look something like this. This is good for peeking corners, obviously setting yourself up for a prone peek. All around just a solid thing that you should be doing. I forgot to mention, but you need to let go of your movement keys after you jump in order for your momentum to follow through. So make sure that you run, jump, let go of your movement keys, and then hold your hold to prone. Another thing you can do with the jump into hold to prone is you can slide backwards while proned, which is, just something people wouldn't expect to see. It's honestly kind of useful if you're jumping off of a slope, but it's not something that I would be doing all the time. Alright, now time for the best movement perk setup. Obviously there are better perks just for regular gameplay, but this is what I run on medic, which is stimulant syringe, which gives you a 20% boost when you res someone. Then there's hasty retreat, just gives you more speed when you're being suppressed. And then bayonet training gives you an extra second on your bayonet, and then you recover 1 second quicker, which obviously isn't that useful because bayonet isn't really all that useful itself, but this is just what I run. Alright, now time for the fun tech, which is the Beauzu or Beauslip. This is just manipulating the physics system. So when you run off of an edge that is above a slope, you will get almost sort of a little slip where it feels like the gravity's instantly pulling you down. You want to think about catching that slip with your slide. So in order to hit it, you need to run off of the edge at an angle where you get this little slip, and then once you hit that slip, you want to slide and turn right simultaneously. So it should look something like this. Alright, to make this a little bit simpler and explain it more in depth, it doesn't always need to be a staircase or something like that. It can really be any straight ledge that has a slope underneath it. So I could just run off of this straight and then hold down my slide, and then I go from all the way up there to here in less than a second. Alright, now I'm going to show y'all another variation, which is basically just adding a jump to it. So what we're going to do is we're going to hit the slide, let go of all of our movement keys, and then press space. I forgot to mention it in the previous clip, but the jump version of the tech was found by LJ the Person. He's another dope movement player. His YouTube channel will be in the description below. Alright, this next variation was actually found by Frank, a very experienced glitcher and parkour player. It's basically just adding a hold to prone after the jump, and it should look something like this. He actually has a solo parkour guide out right now, so if that interests you, you should definitely go check it out. I'm gonna put the link in the description. Alright, getting into the more niche mechanics now, we have pixel walking, which is a useless tech, but it's still very fun to do. Essentially how you do it is you vault this wall, and then you just look down, and you shouldn't fall depending on the angle that you came from, but just to clarify, this tech so far can only be done on this wall on this house prefab. So you could do this on any map that has this house prefab. Next is going to be window rebounding. This tech is not very useful at all, but it is really fun to do, and I've hit some cool clips off of it. It's done essentially by opening a window on either Suez or Sinai, vaulting through it, and closing it on yourself when you're about 3/4 through. It basically just shoots you back. From the enemy's perspective, you are proned, and you kind of just pop out of the window. So I mean, done correctly, it definitely could give you an advantage, but it's not very useful. Alright, the next thing I'm going to cover is going to be how to throw your limpet charge further. I saw this from Matty Ace. I'm not sure if he's the one that found it, but essentially it's regular walking and then vaulting, and at the very beginning of the vault animation you throw your limpet, and it will give you extra distance. So for example, that's how far it went without the tech. Alright, now I'm going to talk about quick swapping, which is a tech that in essence allows you to instantly swap to your secondary, meaning that you can full auto your primary and continue to full auto with your secondary with no delay. So you're going to need a full auto secondary for this. This is done by pressing swap inventory down and melee at the same time. You could bind these to the same button to make it easier, but I have them separate for personal preference. So you should want to full auto your primary, and while shooting, press this bind, and you should instantly swap to your secondary and continue to shoot in full auto. It should look something like this. Axu, a BF4 movement player, already went in depth on this. If you want to go check out his video, he probably explained it better than I did. Alright, so to ride your own plane, you want to tilt your plane a good amount, slow it down with S, go to your back gunner, look as far left as you can and hold W, and then click E. Just make sure if you're walking towards the back you don't go too far to the side, because it will recognize you as collision and instantly kill you. Alright, the next niche mechanic is going to be weapon swap rebounding. This is a pretty useless tech, but you're going to need weapon swap bound. I have mine on X. But you're going to want to run up to a vaultable object, press your weapon swap and space simultaneously, and then click space twice. It should look something like this. Alright, the next thing I'm going to cover is going to be shooting your AT gun without going fully proned. And it's really simple, it's just spamming your Z in space, and then you don't have to be fully proned. Because if you're fully proned, you get a little bit of delay when you're trying to get up and sprint. Not very useful, but I've used it a couple times. So this tech doesn't really have a name, but it's basically done by meleeing and instantly trying to vault, and you'll know you've done it when you get boosted back into the air, similar to the weapon swap Rebound. This allows you to get a stored vault, meaning that after you do this tech, if you try to vault on anything else, you will get a teleport. Alright, the final thing I'm going to cover is going to be teleporting. The way you do this is you park any vehicle next to a turret, you climb on top of the turret, and then you enter the vehicle, drive away, and then exit the vehicle, and you should teleport back to the turret. Just a warning, you will teleport under the map if you are under, like height-wise, if you are under the turret, you will teleport underneath. Alright, that concludes my movement tutorial. I left out hitting your teammates with planes and launching them. You can get some pretty crazy distances off of this. And I also left out riding your teammates' horses, which is just a really fun thing to do. But other than that, this is the end of the video. Thank you for watching.